Actually, I'm a sociologist. So with that said, I'm majoring in sociology. I love it because it's very interesting subject. It's the study of the society. And I always have this interest on people. So I thought this is a really interesting, subject to study. So that's how I choose this subject, major. Allows me to look at the world in a different perspective. And for example, the way that you see the labor divisions between men and women at household work, and you suddenly realize, oh, there's gender differences. So I think it's it's a really interesting subject, because the way that it provides you a different, the way that I like to use in my classroom is sunglasses to look at the world with different color and different shape. So even though sociology emphasizes so much about, the structure, the inequality that constrain our life chance, sometimes I find out knowing events empowering me, because it really let me know about some of the hidden rules and norms that govern the society and influence the way that we behave. And I also like to challenge it. So I just find it for fun. I love to do this kind of like experiments, social experiments, in my life. The greatest stereotype is that it's a study of obvious, for example, why people commit suicide, or, why people only wanted to have one child instead of two child. I mean, by a large degree, yes, it is true, especially for insider who embody the norms and the rules. But, as an old Chinese saying said, that the player sees less clearly than the bystander, or 当局者迷, right? 当局者迷. So studying those meaning and rationales that sort of like shapes people's behavior can sometimes give us a more clarity about our changing society. And it helps individuals to make more informed choices about their life. And people living, for example, people living in really a high pressure, high social expectation society, such as Japan, are more likely to commit suicide. Well, we cannot see that as a really individual choices, but rather we should pay more attention to the culture, the educational system, the work environment, and all different kind of like structure that actually limits the person's life chance. So we don't immediately jump into the conclusions. For me, it's actually a passion, because I did my undergrad in environmental science and city study with a minor in sociology, and I switched for my graduate school. And then I, did my master and PhD in sociology. So, in job perspective, probably having a science degree helps me to get easier to get a jobs. And sociology sometimes is a social science. You have sometimes limited choices. But sometimes I think the problem is, when you say passion versus head, it sometimes constrain our thinking. I mean, you have to use your head to pursue your passion, right? Similarly, some of my friends who chooses the head, they also need to use their passion, because in order to get by the everyday life, they need to love at least some degrees their jobs. So I mean, at the end, we'll all be fine. So I don't think, instead of thinking about this, one choice over the other, you should be more open-minded and should be more, thinking more about what you like to do and how that can combine with what you think you can support you. So and also, I think it's very important is that there's no one right choice. For example, picking the right major. It seems so big right now as you guys are all starting the college, but you're gonna make so many different choices in your life, and you just have to deal with many problems. And each choices you make have pros and cons. And I think the best way is just keep your head down and then just work on it. And you need to be sure that one day you will get to the place that you want to go. So don't panic. I think I'm pretty happy because I like, the nature of the research. It's just, you can be curious and then you develop projects and then you can execute it. And also you have the autonomy. That's something that I like to do. I don't like to be being told to do something. I like to take on initiative, and I like to have more control of what I wanted to do. So, but of course, there are also cons into it. It means that long hours work, a lot of pressure is coming with it. But there's always a choice you need to make and something you need to sacrifice. Yeah, I told you when I was in Canada, I actually studied at University of Toronto in Canada from undergrad. I was majoring in environmental science. And then later on, after first year, I decided, especially there's also like this, professor come to talk to us, and to sell the idea like, hey, come to pick my major. And then one of the professors called John Myron, I still keep a really close contact with him. And he suggests that, why don't you take city study to expand, your interest? So I took city study as my another major. And because I take city study, and city study, urban planning emphasize so much, not just about architecture of how you should plan a city, but also how you should design a community, a very sociological questions actually. So we have to take sociology. So I took sociology as my core intro in my first year. And I sort of just fell in love with it. And more important is because I met a fantastic sociology professor. His name is Malcolm McKinnon. He sort of like took me, helped me to really learn the subject, giving me a lot of time and attentions on it. So, and one day he told me that you can be a sociologist too. So that's how I thought it's really great that you can take different, majors and different courses and to expand your horizon, expand your interest, and to explore things that you might like even better. I mean, I still love environmental science. I really enjoy hiking and going into volcano, climbing those mountains, and also trying to measure the depth of the water and stuff like that. But it's just I found out that besides nature, I also have another interest, which can keep me going even further. So that's how I see myself picking so I think actually, according to research, undergrad major is less associated with your final, your career, but master have a more, correlations with your, your jobs. I think for me, because I'm an academic, so my major is really closely related to my, career. But earlier, when I'm talking about undergrad, it just has nothing to do with environmental science, have nothing to do with, not like nothing to do. I mean, it's, less relevance to the jobs now. At least I'm not qualified to be a sociologist if I'm, really studying environmental science. So I think there's some correlation, of course, but also I think this question sort of like reflects some kind of anxiety people have about, the future competitions. So let me put it this way. I think the way that I see it is that it really depends on different jobs markets, right? And some jobs require technical skill to enter, for example, engineering, others are not. So some, humanity or social science subjects sort of are more likely, I consider soft skills sort of majors that doesn't have a really strong job orientations. But I think that sometimes it is some way might give us some kind of anxious feeling about the future, but the other times that it actually provide more opportunity that you can explore. And in fact, actually, according to the research, especially in the US, who done the research, on average, a person changed jobs 12 times in their lifetimes. So that means, they only stay in their jobs or employer for maybe 4 years or 5 years, and then they might get, bored out of it, and then they change it. So with that says that I don't think like the major is gonna stuck and will track you into a certain career path that you can't get away. I mean, there's just so many different choices available. But if you are a risk-averse person, meaning that you have low tolerance on risk, you might want to choose a major that has a relatively clear, sort of a career path that can land you to an internship, and then also you later on you can sort of like have a greater control of like what you are expecting to get after you graduate. I think computer science, engineering sort of have that kind of like a guarantee or certainty or insurance in some way. But you are more spontaneous like me. I think I would recommend that young people try this what I call fail fast strategies. That means that it's like you're running a startup. You want to try a different thing, and and you want to see whether it works. If it didn't work, you switch, and then you find something that you think is really getting you focused and you really enjoy doing, and just stick to it. I mean, stick to it means that you persist, even though there's some difficulty of it. And I think then you can also be strategic later on, just like the risk-averse persons, trying to come up with a way that you can make it into your career. So I don't think there's any strong sort of like so-called the match between a major and jobs. Sometimes it's you can design it and you can make that link. First of all, no one loved their major forever and no one loved their jobs forever. And it's just completely normal to feel sometimes discouraged. But you will probably want to know what discouraged you. I mean, is it because of the confidence of doing a good job, or how difficult it is, or external pressure because of like family burdens that you just have to, go to work early so that you can support your family. I mean, there's just no silver bullet to cure different problems under this umbrella questions of what we call the major choices, right? So for me, I was really blinded. I mean, when I picked sociology as my graduate degree, I didn't really listen to anyone. And my parents are high school educated, and they don't know, and they don't have any advice to give me. So I think in part that it's lucky to have it because I have the most freedoms to pick my major. Of course, I think I also have a survival bias because since I was lucky to get a job at UST, and also I'm privileged in a way that my parents don't need me to support them immediately. So I think that, sort of like conditions we cannot forget. But for students, how can they respond to internal, external pressure? Is like, I think for the external one, I think you really need to see whether sometimes you need to seek help. There's no shame for asking help if you think that you are facing a lot of like structural issues and you find it really hard to deal with, especially economic issues. I really encourage students to seek help and come to talk to me. And if it's internal problems, and depends on what they think, I'm not so sure. I think at UST, they also have counselor. And I strongly advise students to have the habits to go to counselor. Because it's not, it's like you catch a cold, right? You catch a cold, your body reacted. Human being, like our emotion and our mental health also will catch a cold. So if you feel depressed, if you feel like you're lost, you should seek help. I mean, go to the counsel, or even go to professor, talk to the professor, talk to your friends about this. And sometimes it's just a change of the mind that will help you get you out of the blue and get you out of the anxiety of like whether or not I still love my major. And I think we're lucky because we are a UST system. I don't think there's so much challenges in switching a major. I mean, we're much luckier compared to students in mainland when they were assigned one major and they just have to stick with it, regardless the future perspective of it. So I don't think that, if that's the advice that I would give, yeah, just confront the problems and deal with it one by one. No problem. I did my undergrad in Canada, so I should probably say it's in North America. Undergrad, and then I went to Columbia for my master, and then I did my PhD at City University of New York at Graduate Center, CUNY Graduate Center, short for. And then after that, I went to Stanford for my postdoc. So it's a long journey. I just spent a lot of time at school. So I have a lot of experiences, studying different institutions. It really depends on what kind of questions that you guys want to know. But I really enjoyed my undergrad because it was just so fun, and especially because I met my professor, Malcolm McKinnon, also John Mine, and other professor who actually guided me through the way. And I remember when I first took sociology, intro to sociology at his class, I did so poorly on the midterm. I got like 60 out of 100, and was just shocked because, as like upbringing China, you were supposed to always helped up as this good student. How dare you get like a 60? I would just completely collapse. So I went to his office hour, and I can't help my, my tears running down. I'm like, what should I do, professor? So my professors, McKinnon just said, come and talk to me in my office hours, and we'll go through the material together. And so he has spent a lot of time mentoring me, like just giving me extra time and care, and teach me a lot of things about Canada. I think the part of the difficulty in studying in Canada is because I was raised in China, and I have a completely different society compared to Canada. I didn't even know what is strike. I mean, how can you, a worker, go on strike and protest? That's impossible in China, in some way. So that has a lot of different culture environment, which is part of the reason I was lost. And so, but he's also very interested in China. So he will ask me a lot of questions about China. I try my best to answer him. And so he instilled many of the ideas in my mind, in my young mind, which really changes my life. So, so meeting a great professor is really the best experience for me studying in Canada. And then, of course, later on, I also met great people. And I've been to a really elite college, Columbia, but also been to really a working class institution like CUNY Graduate Center. And what I find most striking is that I really love my PhD study, because all my friends, they are much older than me. They are not like, in China, what happened is that we often taught in a way that, oh, you need to do good in a school, and then you keep going. And then there's always like a plan to go. So sometimes we even don't know why we're doing this. But a lot of my classmates at CUNY Graduate Center, they already worked for 10 years. And then they started to went back to school and saying that, oh, I wanted to do sociology because I've identified these social issues in society. And I really wanted to understand this better and want to change it. So I was really inspired by my classmates. Many of them are labor activists, LGBT activists, and some of them are government official, which is really different. I mean, not just in terms of racial background, but also in terms of different life experience, different ages. So that really informs my perspective about life. And so I think that kind of tolerances to people, regardless their background, they should all have a chance to get education. Is something really inspiring and different. But because in Hong Kong, in many ways, we are still graduate structured. Like most of our undergrad students are, graduate from high school. They are really fresh. But I taught 3 years at Queens College in New York. And some of my students are much older than I am. Like they are 60 years old, they are 40 years old, and they are a single mom, and they are working as like a plumber. And they're just all different kind of like, they're not just having a student identity, but they're also having like a different sort of identity. And and then you teach them. I mean, I try my best to teach them, but it's just very, I think it's the kind of like diversity. It's like a bit different from what we have here at UST. I think UST is a great school and have great reputation, and Hong Kong is a great city, one of the top cities in the world. I just wanted to have a city life. I mean, and I love Cantonese culture, the language, the food, and also the proximity to be close to home. So I think it's just a perfect, a mix of the stuff that I really like. So I feel very, very lucky to be here. And also I think students are working really hard in my class, and I think they're all amazing. And I like teaching. I mean, I like to challenge students, conventional thinking about certain things. I like to challenge their common sense. And when I found they got challenges, I found a real joy in that, oh, now they can see the world a little bit different than before. And I find that process is really rewarding. And I hope, after they take my courses, one day they will become a leader in their position. They will have power. And I think they would make more positive changes to the world. Yeah. And I really believe in those students. They could be a politician. They could be the president. Who knows, right? The way that I think about is I do what I can do at work, and then afterward, I'm trying to get completely off. So I really set a time that this is the time that I'm going to concentrate on working. And afterwards, I just wanted to relax. So I'm the kind of like work hard, play hard types. Probably because that's how I get when I was at Columbia. We often like work really hard during the week, and then on Friday night, let's go clubbing, and then all the way to 2 a.m. in the morning or 3 a.m. in the morning. So that kind of mentality sort of carry on. But I think it's a good strategy in many ways, because actually, one of my students asked me this questions, during the midway feedback, and she was a bit confused because she wanted to pursue a PhD in science, but at the same time, she worried whether that would affect her work-life balance, and whether or not she would be able to have a family, have kids, marry, And I think that sort of types to a really stereotype about a female PhD, like, the top popular saying, there's 3 types of people in the world, men and women and female PhD. It's like being a female PhD, you just have to sacrifice life, but life doesn't work that way. I mean, in reality, we have so many rooms to maneuver. So I think a student can, try my work hard, study hard, work hard, play hard strategy, and sort of like, in a technical way, you can plan your week or plan your day. At the beginning of the week, you sort of like plan everything that you need to do, and you just put that into a calendar, and then you map that out into your weekly calendar, and then you also give time that you will reward yourself for what you do. So you have the momentum to go on. And I think that's my strategy. On the other hand, I actually consult these questions to a friend of mine who's an assistant professor at MIT, who's a science, engineer and female professor, which is really, inspiring women. And she told me that, isn't that any kind of jobs needs a work-life balance? So there's no specific to science major or other kind of major. You just have to learn how to do it, and also I think the problem is that sometimes when we set work and life, we sort of really set them into two binary. But in fact, it can be a spectrum. If you really enjoy your work, it could be a play. If you play really well, it can become a work. So it should be like a spectrum instead of like one way or the other. And another thing is that she also gave advice that it's like a machine. If you keep running and keep running, your machine's gonna fail fast. You just need time for the machines to recover and for long-term good. So I think students, if they're listening, and they can take that as another advice given by this professor at MIT. Another question I think is like, how do I spend my luxury time? Oh, I love this question because I just have a lot of things that I like to do besides work. I mean, I love dancing. So I've been doing swing dance for more than 6 years. So it's been really rewarding for me, meeting friends, and then just lost in music. It's just something really wonderful. And I also love hiking. So I hike with my daughter every weekend and go to the beach. And I also like to do something different, sports, and just trying different things. There's so much thing you can do right now in Hong Kong, and and vacation, travel, all this kind of things. I think just need to explore, to see different ways of living. Oh, I really love travel. So, I mean, after I graduated from undergrad in Canada, I travel around Europe and with my friends. So I think that's a really eye-opening. And then later on, I keep traveling to different places. I think students should just go wide, try hard, and play hard. Just have fun in life, because life is very short. I often like to emphasize in my class is use self as a method. What that means is that you just use yourself as a way to see the world. If I learn a new sociology concept, I just wanted to apply it in my life. And then I sort of like use that as a way to guide and to better inform me when we make decisions, and help me to, talk to different people. And when you learn some of the sociology knowledge, you know about how a person's opinions are influenced by their class, their education, and also where they were born and live, then you sort of like have a much better sense of like why people behave in a certain way. And you have a much better way to control your emotions, not letting your emotion carry out by other people's, senseless speech. So I think that in many ways that I found sociology really helpful, given the kind of wisdom of me in life. Exactly, that is life. I mean, real life never have a right answer. I mean, that's how I wanted to my student to know that there's no one answers in jobs, in work, in life. So the insight I can give students is really to become interested in the object, use self as a method to see the world differently, wear your sociological glasses, and also to rekindle your childhood curiosity. I think if you have the interest, it shouldn't be so hard to study that. But writing essays and also give really clear guideline, how you structure your essays in a way, in a logical way, and also how you can explain your arguments and then support your argument with evidence. I think right now, especially we're living in this kind of like new media or social media, where we are so flooded by different kind of information and opinion, and we tend to lose our independent thinking because you can just copy and paste from the internet, and we human beings are very lazy. So by forcing the student to really study and to think about these critical issues, I just hope that they can be more independent thinker. Don't be so easily influenced by some kind of conspiracies or by the crowd. That they can be an independent thinker to make the right decisions for themselves and be more emotionally stable. And I think that's sort of like the goal for the assignments and also for the essays. Another thing is that to assess the fact, evidence to support your argument. Because when you read a lot of this kind of social media posts, a lot of them actually lack evidence. They're just making a claim for the sake of making a claim. But if you don't rigorously to assess it, then you can easily be fooled. So it's like when we buy into some ideas, we sometimes never really challenge them. So be critical, it's very important for female, for male, for anyone.